Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the PrizePicks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Hello and welcome to Mavs Moneyball After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson, editor-in-chief of Mavs Moneyball. I'm joined by fellow editor Ben Zadell. How are you, Ben?
Doing good, Kirk. Thanks for having me on.
Well, you're a saint to join me on New Year's Eve, a shade before 9 p.m. The Mavericks just played an early game, thank goodness, and they held off the San Antonio Spurs 126-125 in a barn burner of a game in which the last 4 minutes probably deserved a Benny Hill soundtrack. So, for full disclosure, I watched the whole game because I had to write about it. Ben only watched the last 5 minutes. The last 5 minutes were basically exactly like if you missed it, go look at the game log where it was just like ridiculous dumb play after ridiculous dumb play. And to kind of give you a brief summation of the game, since that's what we're here for, is in the first half, the Mavericks they didn't attack very well. Luka scored early, but all the rest of the Mavericks were a little too tentative. Luka scored 30 at the half, which was pretty impressive, obviously. And then in the third quarter, the Mavericks came out and laid waste to the Spurs, essentially building a 17-point lead through the strength of 12 straight made field goals to start the quarter. But unfortunately, the defense was not there in any way, shape, or form tonight for the Mavericks, and the Spurs just kind of hung around. They hung around and hung around and hung around. And then in the fourth quarter, with the bench unit playing and Luka on the bench, the Spurs whittled the lead to 3 pretty quickly. Luka comes back in the game around the 8-minute mark. And though Luka repeatedly saved them, basically keeping ahead, the Spurs were never quite able to take the lead. And then in the last 4 minutes, like we mentioned, there was just like an asinine volume of bad plays, including a Tim Hardaway missed dunk, a number of missed free throws again in the fourth quarter. The Mavericks as a team were 12 of 21 from the line, which is fucking embarrassing. And I'm really not doing how bad, like the Mavericks did everything they could to lose this game and did not do it. Perfect tanking game for the San Antonio Spurs. Ben, I've been talking for like a minute straight.
It seems like it's just every game now Luka Doncic has to bail them out. Like you talked about it's like they were trying to give this game away, except for Luka. And I love watching these Luka games where he's putting up 50 and 60 points, which is a weird thing to say that I'm sitting here talking about like Luka 50 and 60 point games like they're just common.
Casual, right?
Yeah, like I'm talking about him putting up 25 to 30. It's insane. But it is a little frustrating to watch the Mavericks. Just they're. I guess it's better than it was earlier in the season where they were actually losing to these last place teams in the league. but it is still frustrating to watch them, fail to just put them away, put their foot on the throat of a lesser opponent, and get Luka the fourth quarter off. So, and that this game was just 100% like a microcosm of that whole thing. So,
well, and that's where it's important to note that once again, the Mavericks were without Dorian Finney-Smith, who is going to be out for at least another week, and Josh Green, who the way Kid talked about him in the postgame almost made it sound like he's recovering from a disease. He described symptoms, which symptoms to me says pain and discomfort, which you don't like. It's a right shooting elbow. Like for a guy who couldn't shoot, his shooting elbow getting right feels fairly damn important. So the Mavericks are just sort of having to really string together wins by hook or by crook. I'm not mad.
yeah.
And the defense, I'm not mad at the defense because they just don't have defensive players.
Right.
Now, what they could stand to do is fucking rebound. I don't know if you noticed this, but the Mavericks did not grab a rebound in the fourth quarter until the 5-minute mark.
Wow.
That's 7 minutes without a rebound. That's hard. And, Luka has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting on the boarding for the year. He only had, what did Luka have? Luka only had 6 rebounds tonight, and he really had 3 throughout much of the game. So and I don't necessarily think it was intentional. There are a number of rebounds like rocketed off his hands, but the Mavericks were out rebounded by 22 tonight and won by a single point. It's the Spurs shot 55% from the floor. It was every bit as painful as you could have imagined. Like I had a great time watching it because I was like never bored. But if you're just hoping that the Mavericks would like put the team away and move on to the next one, this was not that game.
Right. Well, it's fun to watch these games like this where Luka is just putting up a million points. It's amazing. But on the flip side, you would like to see that coming against, I guess like Kevin Durant or LeBron, Giannis, where they're kind of going, not one-on-one, but, just kind of this face-off between two NBA superstars. And the fact that they just can't put away these teams. But again, who cares? It doesn't matter. A win is a win, especially this team specifically. What they were 15-16 at some point recently, I believe, like 5 games ago. You can't complain when you have a 15-16 team. You can't complain about any wins, no matter what the opponent, the schedule, nothing. So,
right. Oh, brother, and so. If you want to take the good parts away from this, over the 6-game win streak, Luka is averaging 42 points a game, 42.16 points a game, which I have not done the research, but this has got to be among one of the most hilarious heaters of the last 20 years. I remember Kobe going nuts every night, but I don't remember what some of the numbers were. They play one more game against Houston, and I suspect that's going to be another kind of heater of a game because the Mavericks just need this. They don't have guys who can score. And it's a riot because you're out there and our former colleague Lauren Gunn tweeted something to the effect of when she saw like Frank Ntilikina hitting a shot, it's like, oh, I think his form looks really good. Like Frank took and hit a shot in clutch time that was extremely important to this team. It was bizarre.
Yeah,
that's go ahead.
Well, I tweeted out a joke about basically not wanting to see him shoot anymore. Saying basically a Frank shot is a turnover. Literally 30 seconds later, he hits that shot. So of course, I don't know. I reverse jinxed him somehow.
But, I love it.
There's not shooters out there. There's Bullock really. And he's awful right now.
Well, he scored 7 points in the first quarter, and it was like, yeah, the Mavericks are going to cruise to victory. Never scored again.
Yeah. So, there's just no, like you said, there's no one out there. Dinwiddie's so weird when it comes to the scoring. It's like it's there, and you look at the box score, and there's 20 points, 18 points, something like that. But it just never feels like he's, taking over for a 2-minute stretch when Luka's out. So it's just a really weird thing to say that this Mavs are like a dearth of scoring, but they really are. But there's so many guys out.
Right. So, I'm having like a lot of people tend to assume that I get really pissed during stuff like this. I wasn't pissed. This was kind of amusing for me. I'm glad they won. I would have been pissed if they lost because it cannot be stated clear. The Spurs, despite their record, the Spurs are the worst team in the NBA by a significant margin. in my humble opinion. Now, as I'm talking, I'm filibustering here because I want to go look at the point differential. Yeah, the Spurs are the worst team in the league right now. They boast a negative 8.6 point differential. The next closest is the Detroit Pistons at 7.3. Most of the bottom of the league is under 2 points. Like the Spurs they're doing a masterful job tanking. Now, that's not to say the players are bad, which is what Dallas ran into tonight. It's just one of those things that if they would have lost, I would have been mad. But instead, we got a really entertaining game. You know, Greg Popovich jokingly said 2 days before the game that it was the Spurs' goal to limit Luka to 50, and he scored 51, which is hysterical. Jordan Brodess just posted this out in our Slack. I guess one of Luka's rebounds, I didn't see this because I'd already ran upstairs to start getting ready for the show. One of Luka's rebounds was actually the rebound off of his miss free throws.
That's it. I wonder what it's got to be the one at the end they sealed the game where he that counts as a rebound, right? Yeah,
because it's just preposterous.
Just a wacky game. But I mean, that's what we love watching basketball is these stupid games
true.
like this. You know, in the middle of the season, there's just it's a dark winter sport sometimes, basketball, and it's fun. Like you want to see like goofy games like this. It's really like again, if the Mavericks had a lot better record, if they were 26 and I don't know 10 or 26 and 12, something like that, we just laugh this game off. I think anybody that's going to have a little bit of frustration or be mildly upset about this game, it's just because of how a lot of the other games have gone for the last 2 months. So a win is a win. What are you going to do? It shouldn't have been this close, but it was fun. The 5 minutes that I watched were wacky is the best way to put it. So
I think that's the right way to approach it. I mean, the Spurs, when you watch them as a team, the Jeremy Sohan guy is a lot of fun. He really went at Luka with kind of reckless abandon. In a way, both offensively and defensively. The dude's shooting 18% from 3 for the year, and of course hit 2 threes versus the Mavericks. And they still want, Josh Bowe just retweeted me because I said this was just a disaster of an ending. Like they still won, but it's like, come on.
Yeah.
And that like you're right about the fact that we're getting into the absolute muck of the basketball season where January, it used to be one before they rejiggered the odds of the lottery where March and April basketball was horrendous. Since they added the play-in game, March and April basketball has actually been a lot of fun. The secret of the season is January because you're inching towards the trade deadline. You're inching towards All-Star break. And the further you get into January and early February, the worse the quality of the games get because these guys are exhausted because they play a ton of minutes. And you're right about like finding weird shit to watch. So
and I think a lot of people, the All-Star break kind of confuses even people, like us who have watched basketball for forever and watch way too much of it. You think that the All-Star break is the middle of the season, and it's not. Like I think the halfway point will be in a week or two. They'll hit about 41 games here in about a week or so.
That's
so it's like you said, everyone, you're kind of ground out by watching this, so many games. These guys are tired from playing so many games. So I don't know. I enjoy the weird basketball stuff. Like I said, the reason I was paying attention to college football tonight, and then I happened to look at the score and see that the Mavs were only up by 2 against the Spurs. So I was like, oh, okay, I got to throw this on real quick and start watching this. So like I said, I love it. That's one of my favorite things to do is just, hey, crazy Mavs game. You could quibble about some of the stuff, especially that weird sequence at the end where Luka got trapped in the corner and had to pass it off to Hardaway, who then ran up the floor, and then just like you said, the Benny Hill music was like played the whole time. And honestly, I feel like a good team might have stole that game from the Mavericks there. But
well, they're lucky because otherwise that would have been the story. Because I'm watching the clip of Luka yelling. He is yelling at everyone, Hardaway, everyone under the sun. Where it's like, what is everyone doing? Like collectively, what is everyone doing? And look, sometimes you gotta get a little lucky. It's better to be lucky than good, is what I'll say.
And I can't remember the guy who missed the free throw at the end that could have tied it. But he was 88% free throw shooter and missed, went 1 or 2 at the line. So again, middle of the season, the guys are worn out. There's a million guys missing from injury. Doesn't hurt to be lucky sometimes. I know the Mavericks have been on the bad end of some of this luck-based stuff, so it eventually evens out. So
right, I think that's right. Well, thank you for taking 15 minutes out of your New Year's Eve. Go back and do something fun. I'm going to record a live show because I'm a true sicko. Thanks for hanging out, Ben. Guys, come to MavsMoneyball.com. It's been an incredible year for us. The calendar year wrapped up. I just checked this while I was sitting here. Our podcast year-over-year stats, we had a 73% increase from 2021, which is fucking bananas. I can't beat that. So thanks for hanging out. Give us a like, give us a review if that's your thing. Really appreciate that that sort of interaction. Send me a message if you like, and download Spotify Live and come hang out with us. We really do have a good time hanging out after these games. This has been Kirk Henderson and Ben Zadell. Thanks so much for spending part of your day with us.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.